The final battle for the galaxy began at the heart of the ethereal gardens, where the Devourer Prime had grown to planetary size. The creature was a living nightmare of flesh and metal, its surface covered with weapons that had once been beautiful alien cities. Around it, thousands of bioships formed a protective shell of living armor. Captain Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the Iron Mountain, watching as human ships threw themselves against impossible odds. All ships concentrate fire on the outer shell. We need to punch through to the Prime. The space around the central structure became a hellscape of explosions and dying ships. Human vessels fired everything they had, railguns, missiles, chemical weapons, while Devourer bioships responded with living weapons that tried to eat through human armor. Colonel Minna led the marine assault directly onto the Prime's surface. Her soldiers dropped from orbit in armored pods, landing on a landscape made of consumed worlds and twisted metal. The ground beneath their feet pulsed like a massive heartbeat. "Flame units, advance," she ordered, watching as her marines used flamethrowers to burn through organic barriers. "Remember, we're not just fighting for humanity today. We're fighting for every species these monsters have killed." The surface of the Prime was a maze of biological corridors and organic weapon systems. Sergeant Yoonji led her squad through passages that tried to digest them, using explosives and chemical rounds to blast their way deeper into the creature's body. "Ma'am," she called to Colonel Minna over the radio, "we're finding something strange down here. These aren't random structures. It's like the thing is trying to build something." Meanwhile, Commander Ye-jin had successfully infiltrated the Prime's neural center, a massive chamber filled with pulsing brain tissue and strange organic computers. What she found there changed everything. "Admiral," she reported over her encrypted communicator, "I'm reading the creature's memories. The Devourers aren't from this galaxy. They're refugees." Admiral Hyunwoo, fighting to keep his flagship operational as acid attacks ate through the hull, paused at the transmission. "Explain." "Their home galaxy was consumed by dark energy expansion. They're trying to gather enough matter to fuel an interdimensional jump to escape. But the process requires consuming all the matter in this galaxy." Dr. So-young, monitoring the conversation from the fleet's science vessel, suddenly understood. They're not evil. They're desperate. They're trying to save their species the only way they know how. The revelation came at the worst possible moment. Around the fleet, human ships were dying by the dozens. Captain Jinho's fighter squadron was down to half strength, still engaging biofighters that seemed endless in number. "Sir," reported Chief Sung-ho, "hull integrity at 30%. We can't take much more of this." Admiral Hyunwoo made a decision that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. "Open a channel to the Devourer Prime, all frequencies, sir?" Captain Tae-ho looked at him in confusion. "If they're refugees, maybe we can negotiate." The transmission that went out from the Iron Mountain was simple and direct, broadcast in every language the human computers could manage. "Devourer Prime. This is Admiral Hyunwoo of the Human Defense Force. We know what you are. We know why you're here. There might be another way." For a moment the battle paused. Bioships stopped firing and the Prime's massive form shuddered as if considering the offer. Then, a response came, not in words, but in images transmitted directly to human minds. The crew of the Iron Mountain saw the Devourer homeworld as it had been. Beautiful, peaceful, populated by creatures that looked like living art. They saw the dark energy wave that consumed everything, forcing the survivors to flee in desperation. They saw the terrible choice the Devourers had made: consume other galaxies to fuel their escape, or watch their species die with their destroyed home. Dr. So-young was already working frantically at her console. "Admiral, what if we helped them find uninhabited matter? Dead star systems, empty space regions, cosmic debris fields. There's enough raw material in the galaxy to fuel their jump without destroying living worlds. Can we communicate that to them?" Scientist Yuna, who had been studying Devourer biology for months, stepped forward. "Sir, I think I can establish a direct neural link, but someone would have to physically interface with the Prime's brain tissue." Admiral Hyunwoo looked around the bridge at his officers. These were humans from a death world, trained to fight and die for those who couldn't protect themselves. But now they had a chance to save both species. "I'll do it," Captain Tae-ho said immediately. "No," Admiral Hyunwoo replied. "This is my decision, my responsibility." The plan was desperate and dangerous. Admiral Hyunwoo, accompanied by Ambassador Kira and a small team of volunteers, would enter the Prime's neural center, while the battle raged around them. They would attempt to communicate directly with the creature's consciousness and propose an alternative to galactic genocide. Colonel Minaw's Marines carved a path through the Prime's defenses, using everything in the human arsenal to reach the central brain chamber. Engineer Wu Jin overloaded his ship's reactor to create a distraction, allowing the assault team to penetrate deeper into the creature's body. In the neural center, Admiral Hyunwoo found himself face-to-face with an intelligence older than human civilization. The Devourer Prime's consciousness was vast and alien, filled with the pain of losing everything it had ever known. Through the neural link, Hyunwoo shared human memories, the struggles of Earth, the fight for survival on a death world, the choice to protect others despite the cost. He showed the Prime what humans had learned, that survival was meaningless without something worth surviving for. Ambassador Kira added her own memories, the beauty of Veltharian crystal cities, the joy of alien children playing in gardens of living light, the peace that the galaxy had known before the Devourers arrived. The Prime's response came as a wave of emotion that nearly overwhelmed them. Exhaustion, desperation, and something else. Hope. Scientist. Yuna worked with human and alien computers to calculate new trajectories. Dead star systems, empty regions of space, cosmic debris fields left over from the galaxy's formation. There was enough raw matter to fuel the Devourer's escape without touching a single living world. The negotiation that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Humans, the species once banned for being too violent, brokered peace with creatures that had consumed 40 star systems. Engineers from both species worked together to redirect the Devourer fleet toward dead matter. While Chief Shung Ho helped establish communication protocols between human and Devourer technologies, the transformation took months. Slowly, carefully, the Devourers began consuming dead worlds instead of living ones. Human ships guided them to empty systems, while alien scientists worked to calculate the exact energy requirements for their interdimensional jump. Ambassador Kira stood in the rebuilt Galactic Council chamber, addressing representatives from across the galaxy. Beside her stood Admiral Hyunwoo, wearing the uniform of the newly created Galactic Defense Force. 6 months ago, Kira said, we asked the humans for help because we were dying. We expected them to save us through violence. We never expected them to save our enemies too. The Devourers, now fed on dead matter and cosmic debris, were preparing for their journey to a distant galaxy where they could rebuild their civilization without destroying others. Several alien species had volunteered to help them establish communication with other galaxies, creating a network of civilizations that could share resources without conflict. Admiral Hyunwoo addressed the council in his characteristic, simple style. The galaxy is big enough for everyone, if we're smart about how we use it. Today, we proved that Deathworlders don't just survive. We help others survive too. In the months that followed, the Devourer exodus became the largest peaceful migration in galactic history. Human ships escorted the biofleets to the edge of the galaxy, while alien scientists worked to ensure their new home would be suitable for rebuilding their civilization. Dr. So Young's final report became required reading in every xenobiology program in the galaxy. Today we learned that there are no true enemies, only species trying to survive in an indifferent universe. Sometimes the most violent solution is actually the most peaceful one, and sometimes the best way to win a war is to make sure nobody has to lose it. The Galactic Council voted unanimously to invite humanity as full members, with Admiral Hyunwoo serving as the first director of Galactic Defense. But the real victory wasn't political. It was the knowledge that the galaxy had learned to solve problems with both strength and compassion. Years later, when new threats emerged from deep space, the galaxy was ready. They had humans to provide the military expertise, aliens to offer diplomatic solutions, and former enemies who had become allies. The Deathworlders had taught them all a valuable lesson, that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is choose not to fight. But when fighting was necessary, they were ready for that too. The intelligence briefing on Luna Station was unlike any in human history. Admiral Hyunwoo stood before a holographic display showing the ethereal gardens, or what remained of them. Where once there had been 7 beautiful worlds, now there was only a massive cluster of bioships and organic structures. 43 star systems, General Boram reported grimly, all consumed. all converted into weapons of war. The Devourers have built the largest armada we've ever seen. Commander Ye Jin, head of intelligence operations, stepped forward. Sir, our reconnaissance shows they're not just building ships. They're constructing something at the center of the cluster. Something enormous. The hologram zoomed in to show a structure the size of a planet, pulsing with dark energy. Around it, thousands of bioships orbited like a living storm. What is it? Admiral Hyunwoo asked. We're not sure, Ye Jin admitted, but the energy readings suggest it's designed to consume massive amounts of matter very quickly. If I had to guess, I'd say they're planning to eat the galactic core itself. The room fell silent. The galactic core contained the ancient black hole that held the entire galaxy together. If the Devourers consumed it, the gravitational disruption would destroy star systems across multiple sectors. Timeline? Hyunwoo asked. Based on their construction rate, maybe a week before they're ready to move. Hyunwoo turned to address the assembled officers. Gentlemen, ladies, this is it. Everything we've done so far has been preparation for this moment. We're going to attack the largest concentration of enemy forces in galactic history, with no backup and no guarantee of survival. Captain Jin Ho, leader of the fighter squadrons, raised his hand. Sir, what are our chances? Honestly, terrible. We'll be outnumbered 1,000 to 1, but we're humans from a death world, and we've never let bad odds stop us before. The planning took 3 days. Every human ship in the galaxy was recalled for the assault. Every Marine, every pilot, every engineer who could hold a weapon was assigned to the mission. General Boram coordinated with alien survivors who provided detailed maps of the ethereal gardens before the Devourer invasion. The aliens, despite their pacifist nature, volunteered to serve as guides and support personnel. Admiral, said Ambassador Kira during one planning session, my people wish to fight beside yours. We know we are not warriors, but this is our galaxy too. Ma'am, Hyunwoo replied respectfully, we appreciate the offer, but this is going to be the most violent battle in galactic history. You said yourself that your species aren't warriors. Kira's blue skin flushed darker. No, we are not. But we have learned that sometimes peace must be fought for. We cannot ask you to die for us while we hide in safety. In the engineering bays, Chief Petty Officer Sung Ho worked around the clock to prepare the fleet for the toxic environment around the Devourer nexus. The enemy had converted entire star systems into biological matter, creating a region of space filled with corrosive gases and organic debris. Sir, he reported to Admiral Hyunwoo, I've modified our hull plating to resist the biological acids, but it won't last long. Maybe 6 hours of exposure before the ships start breaking down. That'll have to be enough, Hyunwoo replied. How long to reach the central structure? At full combat speed, 4 hours. But sir, the fighting will slow us down considerably. Captain Jin Ho was running final simulations with his pilots in the combat training center. The holographic enemies they faced were based on reconnaissance data from the ethereal gardens. Biofighters the size of human frigates, each one capable of consuming smaller ships whole. Remember, he told his squadron leaders, these things eat energy. No plasma cannons, no particle beams, kinetic rounds only, and aim for the junction points where their organic armor meets their metal endoskeletons. Pilot Dayun, his second in command, studied the tactical displays. Sir, what about the swarm attacks? Intelligence says they coordinate like a hive mind. Then we break the hive, Jin-Ho replied grimly. Focus fire on the largest biofighters. Kill the coordinators and the smaller ones should become confused. Commander Ye-Jin was preparing for the most dangerous part of the mission, infiltrating the central structure to gather intelligence on the Devourer's ultimate plan. Her team of intelligence operatives would have to penetrate the heart of enemy territory, while the main battle raged around them. What are we looking for? Asked Lieutenant Ko, one of her best agents. Answers, Ye-Jin replied. Why are they here? What do they really want? And how do we stop them permanently? The assault fleet assembled at the edge of Devourer space was the largest military force humanity had ever created. 800 ships carrying 100,000 soldiers, all volunteers who knew they might not survive the mission. Admiral Hyunwoo broadcast a final message to the fleet before the attack began. Soldiers of Earth, aliens of the Galactic Council, we stand at the edge of the greatest battle in galactic history. The enemy before us has consumed worlds, destroyed civilizations, and brought fear to every corner of known space. His voice grew stronger as he continued. But they made one mistake. They threatened the innocent. They attacked those who could not defend themselves. And that is something humans cannot tolerate. The fleet began moving toward the ethereal gardens, their engines burning bright against the darkness of space. Today, we show the galaxy what Deathworlders do when cornered. Today we prove that sometimes the most violent solution is the most peaceful one. Today we end this threat forever. The first contact with Devourer forces came at the edge of the system. Hundreds of bioships rose to meet the human fleet, their organic hulls pulsing with absorbed energy from previous battles. Captain Jin Ho led the fighter screen, his squadron diving into the swarm of enemy biofighters. All units, remember your training. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and don't give them time to adapt. The space battle began with a fury that shook the surrounding star systems. Human kinetic weapons tore through Devourer bioships while the creatures responded with living missiles and organic weapons that tried to eat through human armor. On the bridge of the Iron Mountain, Admiral Hyun-woo watched the tactical displays as his fleet fought its way deeper into the system. Chief Sung-ho, how are the hull modifications holding up? Still good, sir, but we're taking damage from their acid attacks. Estimate 4 hours before critical systems start failing. Then, we better finish this quickly. General Boram's Marines were preparing for the ground assault that would come when they reached the central structure. Her soldiers checked their weapons one final time. Flamethrowers, chemical explosives, and the new dissolving rounds that had proven so effective against Devourer tissue. Marines, she announced over the comm system, we're about to fight monsters that eat planets for breakfast. But remember, we're from a planet where everything wants to eat us and we're still here. That makes us the scariest things in this galaxy. As the human fleet pushed deeper into the ethereal gardens, they began to understand the true horror of what the Devourers had done. Entire worlds had been stripped down to their cores, their matter converted into the organic weapons and ships that now filled the system. But they also saw something else. The Devourers were not just mindless destroyers. There was intelligence behind their actions, purpose to their consumption. And at the center of it all, the massive structure waited, pulsing with dark energy and terrible intent. The real battle was about to begin. News of the human victory at HFY spread across the galaxy faster than light. For the first time in months, a world had been saved from the Devourers. Alien populations that had been hiding in fear began sending desperate messages with coordinates of other attacks. Admiral Hyun-woo stood in the command center of the Iron Mountain, watching as reports flooded in from across the galactic rim. Red markers showed Devourer attacks, but now there was something new. Yellow markers showing human relief operations. Sir, reported Captain Taeho, we have confirmed attacks on 6 different worlds. The aliens are requesting immediate assistance. Split the fleet, Hyun-woo ordered. Form rapid response groups. Each group gets 1 heavy cruiser, 2 destroyers, and a full marine complement. Major Subin stepped forward. She commanded the special operations teams, the elite soldiers who handled the most dangerous missions. Admiral, request permission to take a team to Harmony's Rest. Intelligence suggests the Devourers are building something there. Hyun-woo studied the holographic display. Harmony's Rest had been one of the first worlds attacked, and it had been silent for weeks. What kind of something? Unknown, sir. But the energy readings from that system are off the charts. Whatever they're doing there, it's big. Take your team. Find out what they're building and stop it. Subin saluted and left to gather her soldiers. Within hours, her stealth ship Gwangju was jumping toward the dead system, carrying 20 of humanity's most dangerous warriors. Meanwhile, Technical Sergeant Chan Woo was working in the fleet's main armory, developing new weapons specifically designed to fight Devourers. His workbench was covered with alien tissue samples and prototype ammunition. Dr. So Young, he called to the scientist observing his work. I think I've got something. He held up a bullet unlike anything in the human arsenal. It was made of crystallized chemicals that would react violently with the organic compounds found in Devourer tissue. Chemical disruption rounds, he explained. They're designed to break down the cellular bonds that hold these monsters together. One hit should cause massive tissue failure. How massive? So Young asked. Chan Woo grinned. Let's just say these bullets don't just kill Devourers. They dissolve them. Fleet Captain Dong Hyun was commanding one of the rapid response groups, racing toward a world called Haven's Light where Devourers had just begun their attack. His task force consisted of the heavy cruiser Seoul and 2 destroyers, the Incheon and Daejeon. "Captain," reported his communications officer. "We're receiving a transmission from the planet. It's an automated distress signal. Put it through." The message was simple and heartbreaking. "This is Haven's Light Colony. Population 8 million. The creatures have landed. Our defenses have failed. Please, if anyone receives this, remember us. Increase speed to maximum," Dong-hyun ordered, "and prepare for immediate combat deployment." The task force dropped out of hyperspace to find Haven's Light under full assault. The planet's beautiful blue oceans were turning black as devourer creatures consumed the marine life. Cities burned in the distance and massive bioships hung in orbit like dark tumors. "All ships, attack formation," Dong-hyun commanded. "Use the new chemical rounds. Let's see how they like Sergeant Chan Woo's special recipe." The Seoul's main guns fired streams of the new ammunition into the largest bioship. Where the rounds hit, the creature's hull began to bubble and dissolve, creating massive holes that vented atmosphere and organic fluids into space. On the planet's surface, Dr. Haewon was setting up field hospitals for alien refugees. She was a military physician, trained to treat human soldiers, but she was quickly learning alien biology out of necessity. "Doctor," called Medic Lee, "we have incoming wounded. They're not human." The refugees that arrived at the medical station were unlike anything in human experience. Some were plant-like beings with chlorophyll-based blood. Others seemed to be made of living crystal that could crack and fracture like bone. Still others were energy beings in mechanical suits. "I don't care what they're made of," Haewon said firmly. "Trauma is trauma. Bleeding is bleeding. We save who we can." Working with alien doctors who had survived the initial attack, she began developing new treatment protocols. Human medical technology, designed for carbon-based life forms, had to be adapted for silicon-based aliens, energy beings, and creatures that existed in multiple dimensions. The work was exhausting, but it was also rewarding. For every alien life saved, human reputation improved. The galaxy was learning that humans weren't just effective killers, they were also effective healers. Major Subin's team arrived at Harmony's Rest to find the system completely transformed. What had once been a garden world was now a massive construction site. Devourer bioships had consumed the planet's crust and were using the material to build something enormous in orbit. "What the hell is that thing?" whispered Corporal Nam, staring at the massive structure through his reconnaissance scope. The construction was the size of a small moon, made of the same organic metal that composed Devourer ships. But this was clearly not a ship. It pulsed with energy and seemed to be drawing matter directly from the planet below. "It's a factory," Subin realized. "They're converting the entire planet into raw material for more bioships." Her team observed for hours, mapping the structure's defenses and weak points. They counted hundreds of devourer creatures working on the construction, plus several bioships providing security. "Major," reported demolitions expert Park, "I can place charges at the support structures. Bring the whole thing down." "Do it," Subin ordered. "If they're using this place to build more ships, we need to stop them now." The infiltration took 12 hours. Subin's team used stealth suits and advanced human technology to slip past devourer patrols. They placed explosive charges at critical points throughout the factory structure, timing them to detonate simultaneously. When the charges exploded, the results exceeded even Subin's expectations. The factory didn't just collapse. It triggered a chain reaction that consumed the remaining bioships in the system. The explosion was so massive it could be seen from neighboring star systems. Back at the main fleet, reports of victories were coming in from across the galaxy. Fleet Captain Dong-hyun had successfully liberated Haven's Light, evacuating 6 million survivors before the Devourers could consume the planet. Captain Lee's task force had driven off attackers from 2 agricultural worlds, saving the food supply for an entire sector. But it was the discovery at Harmony's Rest that changed everything. "They're not just randomly attacking," Dr. So Young explained to Admiral Hyunwoo. "They have a plan. They're building a staging area for a massive assault on the galactic core." The intelligence gathered from the destroyed factory painted a terrifying picture. The Devourers had consumed over 40 star systems, converting the matter into an armada capable of devouring the entire galaxy's civilized worlds. "Where?" Admiral Hyunwoo asked. "The Ethereal Gardens," So Young replied. "It's a cluster of paradise worlds about 200 light-years from here." "Was a cluster? Now it's their main base." Hyunwoo studied the star charts. The ethereal gardens had been home to billions of the galaxy's most peaceful species. Now it was enemy territory. How long do we have? Based on their construction rate and the resources they've gathered, maybe 2 weeks before they're ready to launch their final assault. Around the galaxy, human forces continued their rescue operations. Every world saved, every alien life preserved, built trust between humanity and the species that had once rejected them. The aliens were learning that human aggression wasn't random violence. It was protective instinct applied with military precision. Ambassador Kira sent a message to the human fleet from the temporary Galactic Council headquarters on Sanctuary Station. Admiral Hyunwoo, on behalf of all surviving council members, I formally request that humanity take command of all galactic defense forces. You have proven that your species understands war in ways we never could. Admiral Hyunwoo read the message and smiled grimly. The aliens who had once banned humans for being too violent were now begging them to be more violent on their behalf. Signal all ships, he commanded. Prepare for the largest military operation in galactic history. We're going into the heart of Devourer space, and we're not coming back until every last one of these monsters is dead or driven away. The tide of war was turning, but the real battle was still ahead. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Nexar system, and Captain Tejo immediately understood why the aliens were losing. SciFiPrime had once been the most beautiful world in this sector. Its crystal cities caught starlight and threw it back in brilliant rainbows. Gardens of exotic plants covered the continents in patterns of living art. Now, massive bioships hung over the planet like dark clouds, and those beautiful cities were being eaten alive. Dear God, whispered Lieutenant Jamin from his position at the tactical station. Look at the size of those things. The Devourer ships were enormous, each one easily the size of a human city. They looked like a nightmare fusion of insect and machine, with organic hulls that pulsed like living hearts. Smaller creatures swarmed around them, diving toward the planet's surface to feed. Sir, reported Communications Officer Park, I'm receiving a transmission from the Veltharian Defense Fleet. Put it through. Ambassador Kira's voice filled the bridge, strained with exhaustion and fear. Human fleet, thank the ancestors you came. We have been fighting for 18 hours. Our weapons cannot penetrate their hulls. We have lost 12 ships already. Captain Tejo studied the battle displays. The alien fleet was positioned in a defensive formation around the planet, firing streams of energy at the Devourers. The weapons hit their targets but seemed to do nothing except make the bioships glow brighter. Ambassador, Tejo said into his communicator, pull your ships back. You're just feeding them energy. But the civilians, we'll handle the civilians. Trust us. Lieutenant Jamin was already working on targeting solutions. Sir, I'm reading weak points in their hull structure. Areas where the organic material meets what looks like metal supports. Excellent. All ships, this is Captain Tejo. Target the junction points with kinetic rounds. Let's see how they like good old-fashioned physics. The human fleet spread out in attack formation. The Iron Mountain led the charge, its railguns spinning up to full power. Behind it, destroyers and cruisers moved into position. Their missile batteries armed and ready. Fire, Tejo ordered. The space around SciFiPrime lit up with the flash of railgun rounds and missile explosions. Unlike the alien energy weapons, the human kinetic rounds tore through the Devourer bioships with devastating effect. Armor that had absorbed energy beams cracked and split under the impact of depleted uranium rounds traveling at significant fractions of light speed. One of the massive bioships shuddered as a railgun round punched completely through its hull. Dark fluid leaked from the wound, and the smaller creatures around it seemed to panic, swarming back toward their mothership. Direct hit, reported Jamin excitedly. Their armor can't adapt to kinetic impact. On the planet's surface, Sergeant Yunji was leading the first ground assault team. She and her Marines had dropped in armored pods directly into the capital city of SciFiPrime, where thousands of alien civilians were trapped by advancing Devourer ground forces. The Devourers on the ground were just as horrifying as their ships. They looked like a cross between spiders and sharks, with multiple rows of teeth and claws that could cut through crystal and metal. They moved in swarms, consuming everything in their path. Flame units, advance, Yunji ordered into her radio. Her Marines moved forward with flamethrowers, hosing the creatures with burning chemicals. The Devourers, which had been immune to alien energy weapons, screamed and retreated from the primitive fire. Their bioarmor, designed to absorb and redirect energy, had no defense against simple chemical combustion. "Ma'am," called Private Chang over the radio, "these things really don't like explosives either." Chang tossed a grenade into a cluster of devourers feeding on a collapsed building. The explosion scattered them like insects, their bodies unable to adapt to the sudden pressure wave and shrapnel. Meanwhile, scientist Yuna was studying captured devourer tissue samples in the field laboratory, set up in an abandoned alien research facility. What she found amazed her. "This is incredible," she told Dr. So-Young over the communicator. "Their cellular structure is designed to absorb electromagnetic energy and convert it directly into usable matter. It's like they evolved specifically to eat energy-based attacks." "That explains why alien weapons don't work," So-Young replied from orbit. "But why are our weapons so effective?" "Because kinetic energy isn't electromagnetic. When you hit them with a railgun round, their cells can't absorb the impact. They just get smashed like any other biological tissue." Above the planet, the space battle continued. Commander Gitei's destroyer, the Busan, was locked in close combat with one of the smaller bioships. His crew had expended all their missiles and was now using the ship's point defense guns to tear holes in the creature's hull. "Sir," called his tactical officer. "We're running low on ammunition." Gitei looked at the bioship on his screen. It was wounded but still dangerous, and it was moving toward a group of fleeing alien civilian ships. "All hands prepare for ramming speed," he announced over the ship's intercom. "We're going to show these monsters what a Deathworlder does when cornered." The Busan's engines roared to full power, pushing the destroyer directly toward the bioship. The alien vessel tried to evade, but it was too slow and too badly damaged. Gitei's ship struck it amidships, the destroyer's reinforced prow punching deep into the creature's body. "Reactor overload in 10 seconds, reported the chief engineer calmly. "All hands." "It has been an honor," Gitei said into his communicator. Then to the bioship, "Choke on this." The destroyer's reactor exploded in a brilliant flash, cracking the bioship in half and sending pieces flying in all directions. The explosion was so massive that it damaged 2 other devourer ships and forced the rest to retreat to a safer distance. On the bridge of the Iron Mountain, Captain Taeho watched the sacrifice with grim respect. "Mark Commander Gitei's position. We'll recover his crew's bodies for proper burial." "Sir," Lieutenant Jamin reported, "the devourers are pulling back. They're retreating to the outer system." Taeho studied the tactical display. For the first time in months, a devourer attack had been stopped. The bioships were limping away from HFY, leaking fluids and shedding damaged tissue. Ambassador Kira's voice came over the communicator, filled with amazement. "Captain Taeho, we cannot believe what we have seen. Your weapons, your tactics, they actually work against these monsters." "Ma'am," Taeho replied, "we're just getting started." On the planet's surface, Sergeant Yunji was coordinating the evacuation of alien civilians. The creatures she was helping looked nothing like humans. Some were crystal beings, others were made of living gas. Still others seemed to be pure energy in containment suits. But they all had the same expression of gratitude and amazement. "How?" asked one of the crystal beings, speaking through a translation device. "How did you know their weakness?" Yunji reloaded her flamethrower and grinned. "Lady, on our world, everything tries to eat everything else. We've had millions of years to learn how to kill things that want to kill us." As the last of the civilians were loaded onto evacuation ships, the human fleet began preparations for the next battle. Intelligence reports were already coming in about other worlds under attack, other populations that needed saving. But for the first time since the Devourer invasion began, there was hope. The aliens had learned that sometimes being civilized and peaceful wasn't enough. Sometimes you needed barbarians with big guns and bad attitudes, and humanity had both in abundance. Luna Station hung in space like a giant metal flower, its arms stretching out toward Earth. Inside the main command center, Admiral Hyunwoo stood before a massive holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked where alien worlds had gone silent. There were too many of them. Captain Taeho stood at attention beside the display, having arrived just hours ago with the alien message. Around the circular room, the highest officers in the Human Defense Force watched and listened. "Play it again," Admiral Hyunwoo said quietly. The desperate voice of Ambassador Kira filled the room once more. When it ended, the Admiral stared at the display for a long moment. 15 worlds, he said finally. Probably more by now. And their fleets can't even scratch these devourers. Colonel Minna, commander of the Human Marine Corps, leaned forward in her chair. She was a small woman, but everyone in the room knew she was dangerous. Sir, we need to know what we're fighting. Do we have any intelligence on these devourers? Dr. So Young stepped forward. She had worked with the xenobiology team since arriving at Luna Station. We've analyzed everything the aliens sent us. The devourers appear to be biological ships, possibly a hive mind species. They literally eat matter and convert it into more of themselves. She touched her tablet, and the hologram changed to show the creatures attacking Paxima. The assembled officers watched as the monsters tore through alien defenses like they were made of paper. Their ships absorb energy, Dr. So Young continued. Laser weapons, plasma beams, particle cannons. Everything the aliens use just makes the devourers stronger. It's like feeding them. What about kinetic weapons? Asked Engineer Wu Jin from the back of the room. He was young but brilliant, and his weapon designs had saved human colonies more than once. The aliens don't use kinetic weapons, Dr. So Young replied. They consider them primitive, barbaric. A smile spread across Colonel Minna's face. Barbaric, right. And what do you call species that come from a death world where everything wants to kill you? Barbaric, said Admiral Hyunwoo with a slight grin. Thank goodness for that. He turned to face the room. Gentlemen, ladies, we have a decision to make. These aliens rejected us, called us violent, banned us from their precious council because we fight too much and kill too easily. The room was silent, waiting. Now they're begging us to save them. Admiral Hyunwoo's voice grew stronger. They want our violence. They need our barbaric weapons. They're hoping our death world instincts can do what their advanced civilization cannot. Captain Taeho cleared his throat. Sir, what are your orders? Admiral Hyunwoo looked around the room at each officer in turn. We're going to help them. Not because they deserve it, but because it's the right thing to do. And because if these devourers finish eating the outer worlds, they'll come for Earth next. The room erupted in activity. Officers began calling their departments, issuing orders, preparing for the largest military operation in human history. Colonel Minna, the admiral called. I want every Marine combat ready in 48 hours. Full battle gear, maximum ammunition loadout. Yes, sir, she replied, already thinking about the preparations needed. What kind of enemy should we prepare for? The kind that eats planets, he said grimly. Prepare for everything. Engineer Wu Jin raised his hand. Admiral, request permission to modify our weapon systems. If these things absorb energy, we'll need to rely on kinetic rounds, explosives, and chemical weapons. Granted. Whatever you need. Pilot Taeyun, leader of the elite fighter squadron, stood up. Sir, how many ships are we talking about? Admiral Hyunwoo turned back to the galactic display. Everything we have. 1st, 3rd, and 7th fleets. Every battleship, cruiser, destroyer, and fighter we can pull from patrol duty. The magnitude of the commitment sank in. This wasn't a police action or a colonial defense. This was total war. Timeline? Asked Captain Taeho. The aliens said they don't have much time. We leave in 72 hours. As the meeting broke up, officers hurried to their duties. Throughout Luna Station and the orbital shipyards around Earth, the human war machine began to wake up. In the Marine barracks, Colonel Minna addressed her battalion commanders. Listen up. We're going to fight aliens that eat planets. Our job is to get civilians off those planets before they become alien food. That means dropping into active combat zones, fighting unknown enemies, and probably not coming home. Sergeant Yoon-ji, a veteran of the Proxima campaign, raised her hand. Ma'am, what kind of weapons are we taking? Everything, Minna replied. Railguns, flamethrowers, explosive charges, chemical rounds. If it makes a hole or starts a fire, we're bringing it. In the engineering bays, Wu Jin worked with teams of technicians to modify human weapon systems. They stripped energy weapons from ships and replaced them with railguns and missile batteries. It was like going backward in technology, but that was exactly what they needed. The aliens think kinetic weapons are primitive, Wu Jin told his team. Let's show them how primitive can win wars. Pilot Da-un gathered her squadron leaders in the flight simulator bay. We're going up against bioships the size of cities, she explained. Our fighters will be like gnats attacking whales, but gnats with nuclear stingers. Throughout the shipyards, workers loaded ammunition that hadn't been used in decades. Chemical explosives, depleted uranium rounds, old-fashioned missiles with warheads designed to punch through armor rather than disrupt energy fields. Admiral Hyunwoo watched the preparations from his office window. Earth hung below him, blue and beautiful and very much alive. He thought about the alien worlds that were now nothing but gray dust, and the species that were dying while begging for help from the barbarians they had rejected. Dr. So-young appeared at his door. "Admiral, we're receiving more transmissions from alien space. 3 more worlds have gone silent in the last 6 hours." He nodded grimly. "Any word from the Galactic Council?" "Ambassador Kira is trying to maintain communication, but the Devourers are jamming most frequencies. She's managed to send us coordinates for the last major defensive position, a fortress world called HFY. How long to get there?" "At maximum hyperspace velocity, 36 hours. Admiral Hyunwoo turned back to the window. "Then we'd better not be late." 72 hours later, the largest human fleet ever assembled jumped into hyperspace. 300 ships carrying 50,000 soldiers, all heading toward a war against enemies they had never seen, to save aliens who had never wanted their help. As the fleet disappeared into the void between stars, Earth's orbital sensors detected new transmissions from the galactic rim. More worlds were going silent. The Devourers were still advancing, still eating, still growing stronger. But now, for the first time in months, something was coming to stop them. The great crystal chamber on SciFiPrime had never seen such panic. Ambassador Kira stood at the center of the room, her blue skin pale with fear. Around her, dozens of alien species sat in their floating chairs, all watching the same terrible images on the main screen. Cities burned, forests disappeared, entire mountains crumbled into dust. The planet Paxima, once green and beautiful, was now gray and dead. Nothing moved on its surface. Nothing lived. "This is the 15th world," Kira said, her voice shaking. "The Devourers came 3 days ago. Now Paxima is gone, just like all the others." Elder Bora floated above the assembly, his gas-like body glowing with worry. As the oldest member of the Galactic Council, he had seen many wars. But nothing like this. "Show them the ships," he whispered. Kira touched her control pad. The screen changed to show space above the dead planet. Massive ships hung in the darkness. They looked alive, like giant insects made of metal and flesh. Smaller creatures flew around them, eating pieces of the planet's atmosphere. "Our weapons do nothing," said Council Member Thex, a crystalline being from the inner worlds. "Energy beams pass right through them. Our shields mean nothing to them. They eat our ships like we eat fruit." The room fell silent. For 3 months, the Devourers had moved through the outer systems. Every world they touched died. Every fleet sent to stop them was destroyed. The greatest civilizations in the galaxy were helpless. "We must try again," said Ambassador Yeth, her multiple eyes blinking rapidly. "Send more ships. Use stronger weapons." "With what?" Elder Bora's voice was sad and tired. "Half our fleets are gone. The rest are protecting the core worlds. We have nothing left to send." Kira looked around the room at the faces of her fellow beings. They were all peaceful species. For thousands of years, they had used diplomacy and technology to solve problems. Violence was something they had evolved beyond, or so they thought. "There is one option," Elder Bora said slowly. "One species we have not asked for help." The room grew very quiet. Everyone knew what he meant. "No," said Thex immediately. "They are too dangerous, too violent. We banned them from the Council for good reasons." "What reasons?" Kira asked. "Because they fight wars? Because they use weapons that actually kill? Because they come from a death world where everything tries to eat everything else?" "Exactly," said Ambassador Yeth. "They would be as dangerous to us as the Devourers." Elder Bora's form pulsed with ancient wisdom. "The Devourers are already killing us. At least the humans might only want to rule us." Far away in the empty space between stars, Dr. So-young was studying gas clouds when her communications array started screaming. The signals came from everywhere at once, broadcast on every frequency she could detect. She ran to the main console of her research ship, the New Soul. Her hands flew over the controls as she tried to make sense of the transmission. It was in the old galactic trade language, the one used for emergency broadcasts. "Captain Kim, you need to hear this," she called to her ship's commander. Captain Kim hurried to the bridge, still holding his coffee. "What is it, Doctor?" "It's from the Galactic Council. They're broadcasting to everyone. Listen." The message played through the ship's speakers. The voice was female, probably Veltharian, and it was clearly desperate. "To all ships, to all worlds. This is Ambassador Kira of the Galactic Council. We are under attack by an unknown enemy. Our worlds are being destroyed. Our people are dying. We have tried everything. Our weapons cannot stop them. Our defenses cannot hold them. The message paused. When it continued, the voice was even more strained. We are broadcasting to all species, including those we have not spoken to in many years. We need help. We need warriors. We need the humans of Earth. Captain Kim nearly dropped his coffee. Did she just say what I think she said? Dr. So-Young nodded, her eyes wide. They're asking us for help. The same aliens who kicked us out of their space for being too violent. The message continued. We know we have differences. We know you see us as weak. We know we have not welcomed you as we should have. But our people are dying. Our children are dying. If there is any mercy in your warrior hearts, please help us. The transmission ended with coordinates and a final plea. We are sending this message to Captain Tejo of the Iron Mountain, as he was the last human officer to speak with our diplomats. Please, if you receive this, come quickly. We do not have much time. Captain Kim was already moving toward the communication station. Get me a direct line to the Iron Mountain. Emergency priority. Dr. So-Young worked quickly to establish the connection. Within minutes, the face of Captain Tejo appeared on their screen. He was a strong man with kind eyes and gray hair. Behind him, the bridge of his warship bustled with activity. Captain Kim, Tejo said with a slight smile, I was wondering when we'd hear from you. I assume you got the same message we did. We did, sir. What are your orders? Tejo's expression grew serious. I'm forwarding everything to Fleet Command on Luna Station. Admiral Hyun-woo will want to see this personally. In the meantime, pack up your research and prepare to jump to Earth. I have a feeling we're going to war. Dr. So-Young watched the stars wheel past as the new soul changed course. She thought about the aliens who had once called humans barbarians. Now those same aliens were begging for help from the barbarians they had rejected. The irony was not lost on her. The peaceful species who had banned humans for being too aggressive were now facing an enemy that their peace could not stop. Only humans with their Deathworld instincts and violent history might have the tools to fight back. As the ship prepared to jump to hyperspace, Dr. So-Young wondered what her people would decide. Would they help the aliens who had rejected them? Would they risk human lives for species that had never shown them respect? She thought she knew the answer. Humans might be violent, but they were also protective. They fought not just for conquest, but to defend those who could not defend themselves. It was what made them different from every other predator species in the galaxy. The jump to hyperspace engaged, and the new soul disappeared into the void, carrying news that would change the fate of every living world.